This
I am
is
happy. I am healed. I am whole. I am wise. I am wealthy. I am whole. I am strong. I am free. I am healed. I am healthy.
this is
My
one of my
mind is clear. My lanes, my lines, my directions, my
self-talks.
timing. I'm here on time where I'm supposed to be, when I'm supposed to be, doing the things I'm supposed to do. I'm more in tune to my secret place. I am more in touch
Welcome.
with
Hopefully
my
you guys are
spirit. My internal
having a
chatter
beautiful
is
Wednesday.
clear and decisive. I sleep well. I make wealthy amounts of money. I stack my loot. I share my loot. I give. I get. I gift. I am present. I am gifted from God with talents that allow me to be able to share the learning science of self. SOS, science of self.
I'll start talking in a couple of minutes. I guess
breathe
I
well.
want to see if
I eat
anybody will
well.
join me.
I live well. I think well. I am well. I am then. God in me. I be my isness. I be me. I'm doing the things I know are best for me to prosper and capitalize. I am sharing with others, and they turn around and share with others, and we are all sharing and receiving love to each other, from each other, for each other. It is a feeling of sharing for the karmic response, knowing that we get what we give, that we give what we get, that the more we can attract the loving things, that's the more the ways you should act, doing loving things, being loving, loving the way you are, loving your life, loving the way you listen, loving the way you look, loving the way you learn, loving yourself to help, loving the life that you consider the best for you, and knowing that there are so many more things to come. There are so many beautiful ways love is coming to you. The more you look, the more you see, the more you are the look of love, the more you can see that you didn't see before because you didn't have the perspective of love. Having the perspective of love is a life that you live on purpose, on time, in the nick of time, without time, in time, every time, all the time, living and looking and learning the love. More ways, new ways, more things to say and feel that loving way, more ways to look,
Self-talk. This is how I talk to myself.
that look of love. Looking out for others, looking out for your family, looking out for your friends, looking out for those who continue to show you their tail ends. But that's all right. Love the life that they live, and that's what they have chosen for themselves. Encourage them to be encouraged because you are the look that they look at and love and lust for, wanting to live that way.
They
This
do.
is the life of luxury. You live
The life of
as
luxury
you
is
see
how I live, and they look at it like,
in a way that allows you to expand and
anyway.
grow and learn and go and share and show.
Welcome.
Show
I
up
love
and
it
show
wellness.
out, show in and show on and
How can I get this to
stand in and
stop?
stand under
Thank
and
you for
stand
joining me. Heart Happy Hour, Season 7, Episode 4. I'm counting this season. Last couple of seasons, I haven't been counting. But let me tell you a thing or two about Big Mama's Love. Big Mama's Love is our topic today. You know, Big Mama's back, okay? So Big Mama, and the reason why I'm not looking at you because I'm looking at the road. If you didn't know, I am on the highway. I'm headed north. My norm is that I like to do this while I'm driving so that all my sensitivities are tuned in and tapped in and turned on, because I'm also delegating a certain segment of my passage in a safe way. So I'm able to distinguish very quickly that it's the spirit that's speaking. Okay, so Big Mama's back. Okay, so let me tell you how I came to that conclusion, or part of the symbols and signs of what's going on in the world. I think I spoke of it on Mother's Day. If you didn't see that, please go back and look. I spoke about that when the front line was presented with a picture of the melanated Madonna. The Russian troops were rallied, encouraged, you know, utilizing the energy of the melanated Madonna as motivation, as a sacred symbol of them, pulling their spiritual energies, corporate prayer, elevating the powers, tapping into the powers that be, as the melanated Madonna is what I would say an epitome of Big Mama. And Big Mama has permeated in many, many ways. You know, I was going to say something about Martin Lawrence and his, portrayal of Big Mama, and everybody wants to be Big Mama. And, I say this, I'm speaking my truth. We're in the full moon of Scorpio. Scorpio full moon is in effect. It was just, this is the last day of the 90s percentile, the waxing and the waning. It is now going, it is now depleting from the fullness, but the scorpion energy, oh, there was stingers and zingers happening all over the place in strategic and spiritual ways at my full moon event. um and it was the last day of a sweat lodge. A group of folks were doing a sweat lodge, and I chimed in on the last day of that energy. So they were very tapped out. They were very, so I saw, even though I did not and have not seen the movie Sinners, I lived a lifestyle of, club owners in my family, musicians, you know there my father was a liquor store owner, and all these other things, yacht club, black yacht club was my uncle. So I've seen these energies in these environments and so on. So, I have an idea of some things that, when I see it. I've been seeing a lot of the reviews of it, folks telling me about what they saw and what the signs and symbols meant to them. But for me, this full moon, the event that I did, brought out some of the Big Mama energy and some of that full moon energy. But once they gave us the green light, put that Black Madonna back on location. She has a seat at the table now. It's up to us to scoot up to the table and put ourselves into position of at the head of the table. So I think there's an opening, there's a vacancy. Yes, there was the day after Easter, and a renaming of the new papal head. And which way am I going? I think I'm going this way. I am paying attention. It says exit. Crap. And a handbag. Okay, it's all good. So, but anyway, I feel as though that gave an opening to recognition of things that are so out of alignment with that energy. Whereas we were taught various things as we were, developing these newest histories, his stories, the stories that they have passed down don't match the things that were coming down in my family lineage, my family, the things that they were saying, that I'm learning. So I'm seeing more and more of how, like, okay, so let's look at the Big Mama of old and the Big Mama of new. Because the Big Mama of old, her house was always open. Everybody was always welcome to come get a meal, any hour of the night. You walk in the door, how you doing, baby? And she'd read you up and down whatever's going on. I heard this, that, and the other, and your daddy said this, that, and the other, and give them Obi-Wan Kenobi moment, an oracle moment, where, not to say it come to Jesus, but, being very honest and open about things. And then whereas I don't think that's going to change, but the Big Mama of new is not going to cook you the same soul food in my mind. And the soul foods that the energy that she delivers to you will be, possibly more intelligent with the Akashic intelligence or the ancestral intelligence. We're being more and more tuned in, tapped in, turned on as the generations rise, and we get, Generation Z, X, Y, whatever, baby boomers, and so on and so on. All these different labels that we've given as we've elevated to new consciousnesses, the veil being lifted more and more and more until we're now in this age of Aquarius. So what was done even like in the most recent history, like my great grandmother was a tea leaf reader. My grandmother was one of the big mamas that everybody called, everybody came to her house, everybody, we had, and I say strangers, but not family members, sitting and waiting on the porch to go to talk to her. Those who had disabilities, meaning, mental disabilities and things like that, were very they wanted to spend time with my grandmama. And my grandmama actually sent me to, there were three other women in the neighborhood that were similar to her. She would send me to their house to spend time with them. And they would be teaching me. I'd be sitting at their feet, learning things from their perspectives. And, all of them wanted me to be able to marry their sons and, date their sons and all like that. I mean, let's not get too sidetracked. But I had so now if I'm a big mama, those are big mamas, you know. But the kind of love that they gave me back then, I can see the kind of love I'm giving now as a big mama is different. Same but different. Same but different. So, and even younger than me, a girlfriend, shoot, she about to be a great grandmama at this age. And, I don't think I'm old. But I'm just saying, big mamas are back because the youth are looking for, if they're not looking for it, they needed that mama in their ear. And like, when we were growing up, we had all these mamas in our ears. It takes a village. All these mamas in the village that were sewing into me, making me up to the place where I am now. I didn't realize it before, but preparing me to be a big mama. And I'm just at the beginning phases of my big mama-ness, because I'm a grandmama now. But at the same time, there's certain, oh shoot, I ain't gonna be able to make this live. There's certain energies that are, am I gonna be able to make it? Yeah, once they turn, and once they are out of the way. Okay, let them turn, and let's see if I can make it with these folks live and in color. Okay, real time, making it happen. One Love and Wellness. Ashe. Okay, so but in the meantime, the Big Mama's love is a different kind of love. Big Mama, she's gonna tell you, read you up and down, like I said. She gonna, you're gonna get a tongue lashing, and you be lucky if she don't knock you upside your head, depending on the age and the circumstances and the condition of, like, for real. Big Mama is back, but different. Same but different, but Big Mama is definitely in the house. And, they say, okay, so Gaia's Big Mama, we paying more attention to to Mama Earth. You know, we're being more tuned into the Earth's needs. Mama Earth has been depleting her resources, and we're getting more in tune with how to read her temperature and tune into, because these different, well, we're tapping into scientifically adjusting the temperatures and the climates. So there are some things that are godlike powers that are being utilized on behalf of themselves and affecting the goddess Mother Earth. And so that's a whole nother thing as the feminine energy starts to tune in and tap in and turn on more and more to the degree of Big Mama is an aspiration, but there's room for every personality of every person that is a female and to have her own version of Big Mama. Whatever she goes through to get to the place of earning her Big Mama badge is the kind of Big Mama she's going to be. Most likely, those are the things that are going to make her, the things that are foundational to the upbringing. I sat at many Big Mama's feats over the years, many, and a lot of them wanted me there. Showed me how to crochet, knit, sew, showed me, everything that, talked to me about relationships, talked to me about family, talked to me about boys, talked to me about, dynamics in finance, in purchases. And oh man, Grandma was just, when I was cooking a roast, I'd call her and say hi, this, that, and the other, about that. But I had a connection to my grandma that was beyond that, because there were times when things would happen. For instance, I had called her one time, and I say her, the Big Mama that I was the closest to was on my dad's side, and it was her mother who was the tea leaf reader, and it was my dad's wife who taught me piano, embroidery, and mental telepathy. She gave me books like Back to Eden and the Gift of Healing, and something else about gifts in general. But in any case, what I was trying to tune into was the fact that, those are the things that made me, that were a part of my Big Mama upbringing and training. But that Big Mama that I would call, that I would actually, ask about the roast, she was the one that ended up, she supported my jewelry. She's the one that gave me the tool, and at 5 years old gave me the needle nose tool and put it in my hand with a broken piece of jewelry and said, fix it. And I'm at 5 years old. I got a pair of needle nose pliers. But she saw I was good with my hands, and she saw I was already doing things like painting rocks, drawing pictures that actually made sense more than, just a little stick man and all that kind of stuff. So that grandmother was the one that I could call when I had things that were going on, with apparitions or hearing from the spirit or seeing in the spirit. As I said, she was like an oracle, so she was grooming me through a lot of my, she was undergirding everything that I was, as I was studying astronomy, astrology, as I was studying esoteric, what color is my parachute? These are things before 8th grade that I was, reading, all the things I've mentioned so far. But anyway, that grandmother, I one time had a dream that she had fallen down the steps, she had hurt her hip, and the night after that dream, I called her, hey Grammy, how you doing? Mammy Jammy, what you up to? Called her Mammy Jammy. My cousin Pete named her that, and so it stuck. But yeah, Mammy Jammy, How you doing? What you up to? And we went through like 30 minutes of conversation. I said, well, I called because I dreamt you fell and you hurt your hip and you was in bed. She said, oh yeah, I did. I fell. I went to the doctors. I'm in the bed. He put me on bed rest. you know. And so normally, and this is when I started not doing it this much, but normally, I would linger on those dreams. I would be like, what? Why did I, dream this? I would go through like an integration before I even, would move on making a call. So I had to start recognizing you can't sleep on those interjections, those signs and symbols, those little nuggets that you get, because it's a lot of it is so time sensitive. You snooze, you lose. Not only will you lose the memory of it, but you'll snooze on the window of opportunity to, in my case, save their life. Because I get calls like a knock at the door. I'm a birth doula and a death doula. I get a knock at the door. Sometimes I even hear a doorbell ring, and it's what it really is I'm getting the notice to call that person, and at least about 10 or 15 times those knocks have been at the end of their life, meaning the last call that they were on, or the last of the last text that they received, that they sent or received, interacted with. I end up being that contactee on the way out. A friend of mine, her husband was passing, and at the time he was passing, I actually saw an apparition of him dressed in all white, like a white denim suit, walking out the door. And I called her, and she didn't answer, and I called and called for about a week, and she said, around the time was that was him leaving. That was him on his way out. And so I did call, but not always is the call answered. Like, what could I have done other than maybe startle her, or maybe, so the fact that I did call kind of marked the spot, marked the time to say, wow, you did do that. You were calling to let me know what was about to happen. And it, maybe that could have been part of the saving grace. But she's doing well. Things are coming along. She's handling things, learning things, expanding her horizons, and doing some of the things that that it was like his place to do. And they had a very it was I saw was very balanced. He allowed her to do things which was very helpful towards their peace, the peace that surpasses the understanding from the outside. But in any case, so I just wanted to mention, how big mamas, they're here, but they're different. They the same, but they're different. Because we have evolved. Wow, that bump in the road helped me accentuate that part of it. But we have evolved. And the more we evolve with our intelligence, using our Akashic records, using our Akashic intelligence, using that AI, tapping into that streaming directly from source, I believe I'm a different big mama. I look at the movies different. I look at all of the things that they're learning, the tools. I look at math different now too. That's a whole different thing. Now that you see what Terrence Howard had to say, and I'm sorry if you're hearing all these road noises, apologies. But yeah, knowing that our numeric system was even part of how they were how things were being able to be cheated. There's some cheat codes that only a certain level are even thinking about possibly tapping into, or even considering that we've been that misguided, from our religion to our math to our all the histories, like like if you were to wipe the slate clean and allow me to have the energy, the information, like it's as if I was, when I was first born, it's like I got a new, this is a resurrection time. I'm feeling resurrected. I got a new life going on, with all these new things going on around me. Like, the more I'm renewing my mind, the more I'm tapping into the new information, the new perspective, the new paradigm, the new way of looking at things, the new way of seeing even myself, seeing through the eyes, and using my third eye as the first eye. I'm seeing that it is definitely a good time to tap in, turn on, and to get popping. So anyway, thank you for joining me. Heart Happy Hour, Season 7, Precious Mother Love. I've been running my mouth. Hopefully there's something in there that was, that tickled your fancy, tickled your ears, got you perked up a little bit. I probably will be looking to, I guess I need to see if a friend of mine who has, they got all of the codes to get and see things at home. I think I'm gonna see about that over this strong end, and see about giving my review of it. Someone who was brought up in the environment of around nightclubs. I remember doing the books for at 14 years old, doing the books for my aunt and uncle who owned this nightclub in DC. And then, I also remember being at all these different places where my family's establishments, the grandfather who was Ike and Tina Turner's manager, the one that Tina Turner said the eulogy for, that grandfather, he owned wings and wings, wings and things, wings and more wings, and he was in the music and entertainment life. So he had restaurants, not just those. He had some sit-down restaurants where grandma was making the bacon. Grandma made the mumbo sauce. Okay, I said that. Yeah, all those times I've said it before. If you never heard it before, yeah, grandma was the maker of she had, I was raised on sauces. We had sauces all the time. And my daughter grew up on sauces because I was raised on sauces, so was she. But anyway, I said all that to say I lived a lifestyle similar to, they always had big parties. My father, he had a house up off of the Gold Coast where they used to, Bostic. Bostic was Roberta Flack's bookkeeper. And he had parties at his house all the time, They had, the swinging bamboo chair. They had a black room with a water bed in it in the basement, and room all the way around the water bed, and there was a black light in there with all these glowing on it. The astrology, if you remember, the neon, the glowing picture astrology. They had one that had all the sexual positions on it. It had different positions for each sun sign. I remember these things, But Pops, they used to have some pretty, and Pops, I don't know if anybody knows this, but, Wilmer's Park here in D.C., that's my family's land, and we used to have big shows out there, Arthur Wilmer and Anthony Wilmer. Those are the two that I recall the clearest. Anthony Wilmer sold me my first car, but Arthur Wilmer was the owner of the park. They sold the park now, but that park was in my family property, and my uncles, they're the ones who started having the shows down there, bringing all the big name acts to town. So I was raised around a lot of the kind of energy, vampires. Yeah, well, let me just say it. Let me just put it out there. Being that I had this third sight or insight or sixth sense or whatever it was, I was seeing a lot of things at a young age. I was seeing the spirits coming up out of people, especially after they got to drinking. I actually even DJ'd some of my parents' parties, I was raised by, I want to say, Buppy hippies. Buppies were black yuppies, which were also, but my parents, they were hippies. Up, I was raised during the hippie time. The dashiki wearing the big bush, the right on, the, soul brother number one, the stacks, the wide leg pants, you know, Pops dressing like and looking like Ron O'Neal of Superfly, Anyway, um, I am going to give a perspective of that movie in a moment, but right now, I haven't seen it, so I can't give much of a insight. Just to say that I can only imagine. And can you imagine what a person like myself has already seen might see as well? I mean, I might be. I'm gonna see. I'm gonna let you know. That's all I can say is, I'll tell you. Coming soon. So, but in the meantime, Love+Art equals Wellness, Heart Happy Hour, Season 7, Precious Mother Love, One Love and Wellness. Thank you for joining me. Hopefully you'll like, subscribe, and share this video. This is about how to live a happier heart, live with a happier heart. Heart disease is a big factor in what takes folks out of here. And so when my pops passed, I was so crushed that my appetite was gone for a year. Yeah, I ate to be healthy, but I actually had an internal shift that I felt that took me to my next level of matriarchal elevation. So, becoming the eldest at that time, right underneath, on that line, that side of the family, it felt like, I rose to that place of the matriarch, but then I also feel like that may have also, this is me just discovering this as I talk about it, but I was probably not aware that that was probably the beginning of getting tuned up for and tuned into and tapping into the big mama piece of it. Okay? So, anyway, I'll keep you posted on all fronts. Give me, again, a like, subscribe, or share. Comment at the bottom. I am a jewelry maker, if you don't see already on a bunch of my pictures. I usually have, this guy's getting close over here to this lane. I usually have some photos that include my jewelry as the thumb, whatever it is, the thumbprint, the thumb photo that you'll see that tells you, that this is this video. But in any case, Big Mama is back. Big Mama's love is going to be, it's going to have some stingers and zingers to it. Big Mama's going to light your tail up and tell you some things. And this is the way the rest of this year is going to go. This Taurus, Scorpio season is setting down the foundation. We planted some seeds. We're harvesting, we're still incubating, gestating, but all along the way there are, blooms that are popping up all over the place. But it's based on what I was saying, May 1, we had the fertile energy, up until when we just had the Mother's Day and the full moon. May is a very fertile time. And up until the new moon, where it's sinking in. The 21 days for you to create a new habit. So we are tuning up, tapping in, to this Taurus, Scorpio. It's a fixed sign. It's that and Aquarius and I think Capricorn. But the four signs that are fixed, you they're helping us to fix ourselves and put us up, firm ourselves up and pull ourselves up into position and set down that stable foundation. So, you can set it and forget it in this case. It's about the flow, and the flow, the waters, the dams, they have broken, and the fishies are the school of fish is at play. All right, One Love and Wellness family, thanks for joining me. I hope everybody was able to hear and see what I was saying. Mwah, mwah. One Love and Wellness. Ashe, ashe, ashe. Oh, oneness.